drill chuck removal tool. This tool goes into this slot here on the spindle. If I move the chuck, you can see inside there's a second little slot right on the spindle itself. This wedge tool goes into that slot, engages against the Morse taper on the chuck itself, and now I just give it a tap and the chuck falls out of the press, and at that point it's removed and we can go ahead and clean it for reinstallation. Another method to remove the chuck is to use just a simple piece of hardwood. In this case I've got a piece of oak. It's about 1 inch wide, about 3/4 of an inch thick, and maybe 10 or 12 inches long. And to do this, I just take the hardwood, place it up on the ledge of the chuck, and then strike the other end with a hammer, and the chuck will fall right out. Just like that. Because the fit between the taper and the spindle is so precise and tight, the chuck spindle has to be very, very clean when you go to install it. If your chuck had just fallen out of your press, the reason for that is it was probably dirty, either with dirt or sawdust or an excessive amount of grease. So before we reinstall the chuck, you want to go ahead and clean that grease off. I like to use a good degreaser. Acetone works great for this. So I'm just going to put a little bit of acetone on a rag and go ahead and clean the taper off. And you can see how it was pretty dirty. I want to use the same rag now and clean the spindle on the drill press. Just kind of wad that up like that and stick it up in there, getting the grease out of the spindle. Just like that. Acetone flashes or dries pretty quickly, so we don't need to wait long to go ahead and reinstall the chuck. To install the chuck back into the press, I just simply insert it up into the spindle and then very quickly thrust it up into the spindle, and it'll hold itself in place. Just like that. Now that's not enough force to really hold it onto the press. We need to secure it a little better. To do that, we're going to use a wooden mallet. A rubber mallet would also work well, or even a scrap piece of 2x4 if you don't have a mallet. We're going to use this to strike the chuck very sharply and quickly, and that'll hold it in place. I'm going to lower down the table here to give us a little more room for the mallet. That would be good. I've got the jaws extended out from the chuck. Just to protect those when we strike it, I'm going to pull them up into the chuck, so I'm hitting the body of the chuck and not the jaws. And now with the mallet, we'll strike it, like I say, very hard and fast. And that should do it. With that,